This movie is based on the true story of an American pilot born to German parents, a man named Dieter Dengler. The year is 1965. The war in Vietnam is still small, but everyone can feel it about to explode. American bombers have already started hitting secret targets inside Laos, targets connected to the communist Vietnamese forces known as the Viet Cong. The film opens with an American sky raider dropping bomb after bomb, setting the jungle below on fire. This is the Vietnam War, North against South, and America is backing the South. By this point, the North has already pushed its supply routes deep into Laos and Cambodia. On board the aircraft carrier USS Ranger, sitting in the Gulf of Tonkin, Lieutenant Dieter Dengler and the other pilots are briefed by their admiral. The mission is to cut enemy supply lines inside Laos, then push north toward Vietnam. They launch at dawn. The mission is classified. No letters home, no word to family, nothing to a girlfriend. Then the pilots are shown a short training film on how to survive in the jungle, which turns out to be the most useful thing anyone gives Dieter all week. The next morning, the squadron leader lays out the targets. First is an anti-aircraft gun position at the Mujia Pass on the border between North Vietnam and Laos. To avoid getting locked on, the pilots have to change heading and altitude every 7 seconds. The second target sits along the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Laos, the supply road the North uses to move men and weapons south. There is one more warning. The enemy listens in on American radio frequencies and uses them to ambush rescue teams. So the radio station in the area has to be destroyed fast. This is Dieter's first combat mission. He flies as wingman to a pilot named Spook. They reach the strike zone, drop their bombs, and take heavy machine gun fire from the ground. Dieter's plane gets hit and goes down straight into enemy territory. He survives, but he is now alone, on foot, deep behind enemy lines, and Laotian militia and Viet Cong troops are already coming for him. He runs into the jungle and buries himself under a pile of leaves while they search. His war has just become something very different. This is Rescue Dawn. Once the soldiers move on, Dieter dumps his radio and his pistol. He knows the enemy can use both to lure in a rescue team, and he refuses to be the bait. He washes in a stream and hunts for anything to eat. He gets lucky and finds 2 sweet potatoes in an abandoned hut. That night, he sleeps wrapped in his parachute. The next day, he climbs a boulder and tries to flash sunlight at the sky using a shard of glass. Nothing comes. Not a single plane. The militia are still hunting. When Dieter goes down to a lake to drink and clean up, his luck runs out. He is captured and dragged toward a nearby village. On the march, an American helicopter passes overhead. The soldiers shove him out of sight and fire a rifle right next to his ear, convinced he somehow called for help. Dieter keeps trying to explain himself, but none of them speak a word of English. They load him onto a truck. He has no idea where they are taking him, and he knows the 2 options waiting for him are prisoner of war or a bullet. Instead, he is brought to a house to meet the local provincial governor. The offer is simple. Sign a statement saying America is the aggressor and has committed crimes against Vietnam, and in 2 weeks, Dieter walks free. Dieter refuses. He will not sign anything against his own country. That refusal costs him. He is tortured and paraded through the village to break him. He still does not sign, so they take him to a prison camp hidden deep in the jungle, ringed with bamboo fencing and guarded by Laotian militia. Dieter is thrown into a hut, and inside he finds 5 men who have been rotting there far longer than he has. Before he can even talk to them, the guards lock his ankles into wooden stocks. The next morning, he finally meets them. 2 Americans, Jean and Dwayne, and 3 local prisoners, Vichit, YC, and Prasit. Vichit and Prasit were arrested as suspected rebels. YC was a pilot. Then Dieter finds out how long they have been here. YC has been locked up for 2.5 years. Dwayne has been here for over 11. Jean is the one who worries him most. Years in this place with no news from the outside world, no food, no hope. And he is still holding on to the belief that the American military is coming to rescue them any day now. Jean walks him through the guards. There is the camp leader they call Little Hitler, a short man with a very short temper. There is Jumbo, the friendly one, the only guard who treats them like people. And there is Nook, who spends most of his time practicing martial arts. Dieter takes one look at the state of these men and decides he is not going to die here. He is going to break them all out. The others tell him it is impossible. Nobody survives 2 days out there without water, and the rainy season is 5 months away. The jungle is thick and full of animals. 6 guards watch the camp all day, and at night every prisoner is locked in stocks and handcuffed. Dieter is already working the problem.
Hey, does anybody have a nail? There's no nails. Got a hammer and a socket wrench stuffed up my hand.
Nobody does, but Prasit remembers seeing one stuck in the guard's hangout post. The next morning, the prisoners spread out to distract the guards while Dieter goes for it. Jumbo is sitting right there, so Dieter plays it casual, chats with him, asks about toothpaste, and walks away with the nail. He has YC fake a coughing fit to cover the sound while he sharpens the nail against a stone. That night, when the guards lock them into the stocks, Dieter hides the nail in his mouth. Once the coast is clear, he pops his handcuffs open in seconds and teaches every man in the hut how to do it. It turns out he learned this back in Germany, where he once worked on the very restraints used to hold prisoners. They do not run that night. The guards never check on them after dark, so Dieter uses the free time to practice and plan. Dwayne tells him the camp is somewhere in the jungles of Laos, and the guards are Laotian, but take orders from the Viet Cong. That settles it for Dieter. The only real way out is west, to Thailand, across the Mekong River. Jean says the one man who actually knows the terrain is Vishit, but Vishit is furious about something and refuses to speak to any of them. Then American planes pass over the camp. Little Hitler panics that the prisoners will try to signal them and opens fire on Dwayne, grazing his head. Dieter gets an empty rifle shoved in his face as a warning. Life settles back into the routine of starving. Jean proudly shows off some food wrappers from a care package that arrived 2 years ago, still on display in the hut like treasure. Dieter tells Dwayne why he became a pilot. As a boy in Germany, he watched an enemy plane strafe his hometown, and from that moment he knew what he wanted to be. Dwayne is completely on board with the escape plan. Jean is not. Jean is convinced they will all be killed the moment they try, and he threatens to scream for the guards if Dieter goes through with it. Then a group of Viet Cong soldiers arrives to inspect the camp and drop off food and weapons. While they eat, one of the newer guards starts showing off with a fresh rifle. He fumbles it, the trigger catches, and bullets spray everywhere. Everyone hits the dirt. By pure luck, nobody is hit. When it is over, Dieter is on his hands and knees picking spilled grains of rice off the ground, because that is how hungry he already is. Months pass. Dieter gets thinner and weaker. Then, on the 22nd of May 1965, the men wish him a happy birthday and hand him a gift, a lump of mashed insect larvae, the only protein they have. And even though Jean forbade it, Dieter has been quietly building his escape the whole time. He has carved 3 small knives out of seashells, keeping one and passing the others to YC and Prasit. He has been hiding leftover rice, drying it so it will not rot, and stashing it under his own toilet bucket, the one place no guard will ever look. And he has been studying the guards, and he has noticed the one thing that matters. Every day when they are called to the kitchen to eat, they leave their rifles behind. That is the window. Dieter's plan is to grab those weapons, take the camp, hold the guards prisoner, and get word to American forces. The others are convinced. Jean once again refuses. But there is one thing they still do not know, and that is what the guards do during the morning check while the prisoners are cuffed. So the moment the check is over, Dieter slips his cuffs, mounts a piece of mirror on a length of bamboo, and pushes it up through the roof so he can watch the guards' positions from inside the hut. Dwayne maps the whole camp on the floor using the wooden pins from their stocks and some stones, marking every guard and every rifle as Dieter calls them out. They scramble to lock everything back into place when a guard heads their way with food. At mealtime, Jumbo quietly slips them a few balls of rice, even though there is no ration that morning. Supplies are running dangerously low. The prisoners try to distract themselves by describing the best meals they have ever eaten, which only makes it worse. That evening, still unshackled, they keep mapping. Then a guard walks in and gets suspicious about the stones on the floor. Dieter bluffs, tells him it is a game they play, and somehow sells it. Later that night, with no guards nearby, they cut through the woven rattan wall of the hut with the shell knives. Dieter slips out and starts digging under the back fence, a little at a time, carving out the escape route. Everything is finally in place, and Dieter wants a date. Food is almost gone, which means the guards are about to go hungry too, and he knows exactly who they are going to take that out on. Dwayne, YC, Vishit, and Prasit are all in. Jean still refuses. Dieter goes ahead anyway, and they pick the 4th of July. The next morning, with supplies gone, little Hitler serves the prisoners a bowl of worms. Nobody touches it except Dieter, who eats the whole thing. Gene is starving and wants to break into the hidden rice. Dieter stops him. That rice is for the escape and nothing else. To make sure Gene cannot steal it in the night, Dieter simply does not unlock his cuffs. Then everything speeds up. YC, Vashit, and Prasit overhear the guards talking and translate it. The guards are planning to march all the prisoners into the jungle, stage it as an escape attempt, and shoot them. There is no food left, and the guards want to go home to their villages because American bombing has left families across the province unable to plant their rice. So the escape moves up to the very next day, months before the rains arrive. That morning, Dieter hands out the rice, checks the camp with his mirror, and runs the plan one last time. The guards are at the kitchen. Their rifles are sitting unattended. The prisoners split into two teams. Dieter takes Dwayne. Gene goes with YC, Vashit, and Prasit. Both teams grab weapons and converge on the kitchen, and then it falls apart. Gene's team never shows up. Dwayne freezes, hesitates, and throws up instead of firing. Dieter is left to do it alone. He shoots several guards, the rest scatter. And he lets Jumbo walk away untouched, the one small debt he decides to pay. They grab what food they can from the kitchen and run into the jungle. Out there they find YC and Gene. Vashit and Prasit are already gone, and nobody knows where. Dieter is furious with Gene for abandoning the plan. Gene has picked up a machete and a pair of shoes, and he is barely present, grinning to himself, unable to process that he is actually outside the fence after all these years. Dieter trades his ammunition magazine for the machete, and Gene tosses it at him like it means nothing. Then YC wanders off with no idea where he is even going, and Gene follows him. Dieter and Dwayne are on their own. They head for the Mekong. The rain finally arrives, which solves their water problem, and they can finally eat the dried rice Dieter saved for exactly this moment. They barely get a bite in before a flash flood comes down on them. They keep moving, cutting through elephant grass with the machete. When they reach a river, they build a raft and ride the current until the water picks up speed and they realize there is a waterfall ahead. They scramble to the bank just in time. Days pass. The jungle grinds them down. At one point, a local fisherman comes so close they can almost touch him and somehow never sees them. Dieter finds a single left shoe and gives it to Dwayne. They throw away both rifles because they are too weak to carry them. Dwayne starts to break. He hallucinates that he is back in the camp. When they find an abandoned hut, he begs Dieter to leave him there to die. Then two helicopters pass overhead. Dieter waves like a madman. They do not see him. That night, out of desperation, he sets the huts on fire, hoping the patrolling helicopters will come to investigate. They do. Then they open fire on him because they think he is the enemy. Now the smoke and the gunfire have told the Viet Cong exactly where he is. The two of them limp deeper into the jungle, and they run straight into a group of villagers. Not soldiers, not militia, just farmers. But their hatred for Americans is exactly the same. In seconds, Dwayne is killed. Dieter drives them off, takes Dwayne's shoes, and hides in the brush until it is safe. After that, he is completely alone. Starvation and exhaustion push him into hallucinations, and he keeps seeing and hearing Dwayne, who will not stop complaining that his feet are cold. More days pass. Dieter spots a Viet Cong unit by a river and steals the sweet potatoes they leave behind. At one point, he eats a snake raw, and then he sees a plane. He waves a large leaf at the sky. After being shot down, captured, tortured, starved, and hunted for 6 months and 23 days, the plane finally circles back. It comes around twice to confirm that the skeleton on the ground really is an American, and then a helicopter is sent in to bring him home. Dieter is flown to an American base and rushed to a hospital, where 2 CIA officers are already waiting. They want everything he knows about the Viet Cong, and they want the entire rescue kept quiet, because his mission was classified from the start. For 4 days, he is treated and interrogated. Then his friends from the USS Ranger show up. They throw a fake birthday party just to talk their way into the room. They hand him a letter from his fiancée, and then they outmaneuver the 2 CIA officers and smuggle him out of the hospital because the agency was about to move him somewhere else and keep questioning him. They take him straight back to the USS Ranger, where the entire crew and the admiral are waiting on deck to welcome him home. Dieter is asked to say a few words to the crew, especially the young recruits.
Empty. What is full? Fill. What is empty? Scratch word itches.
In other words, when you have a problem, you go find the answer. After the rescue, Dieter leaves combat and becomes a test pilot, training the pilots who come after him. Over the course of his life, he survived 4 separate plane crashes, and he wrote down everything that happened to him in a book called Escape from Laos, published in 1979. But the war never really let him go. Dieter carried PTSD from everything he lived through in that jungle. On the 7th of February 2001, after years of quietly fighting that pain, Dieter Dengler died. So the moral of the story is, if your vacation plan involves getting shot down, eating worms, stealing sweet potatoes, and surviving on bug protein, maybe just stay home and complain about Monday instead.